We're going to work on one of the most important foundation practices for having the capacity to navigate the often complex emotional experience of being a human. And this is the practice of holding space. It's one of the first ways we learn how to recognize and allow our emotions to be part of our experience. So the way that I like to think about this is to imagine a container, a very clear, open container. And within our practice, we are making this within our mind, within our awareness of here is this open space. Within that open space, we're going to have a thought. We're going to notice an emotion. We're going to have a body sensation. Whoop. And they are not necessarily all going to be pleasant. So when you notice an unpleasant emotion like fear, and your first thought is, I need to take that and get rid of it, it creates this space in our life where we don't know how to sit with fear. We don't know how to navigate that human experience of having fear, which is something we're always going to have to navigate. So instead, the practice of holding space says, fear is allowed to be here. I can allow that to be a part of this container. It's not the only experience that I have, but it is one of the pieces of the experience that I'm going through at this moment, and that's okay. So that is the holding space practice. We can also think about it as the first two steps in RAIN, which is recognize the emotion, the thought, the feeling, and allow the thought, the emotion, the feeling to be there without having to fix or change it. So let's see what that looks like within a meditation practice. We'll start to settle in. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes, you can do so, or you can just lower your gaze. And we'll take a couple slow, deep breaths, gathering your attention in, tuning your awareness to be a little bit curious. Being human comes with a complex spectrum of emotions, thoughts, and feelings. Can we be curious about what your experience is today? And you might even start to visualize a container, a mason jar, a vase, whatever that container is. This is the open space that you are creating. And that foundation of openness is that any experience is allowed here. It can be positive, negative, or neutral. We're not going to cherry pick and look for just the good things. We're open to anything that is here. And then as you feel that internal space of your container, we start to see what experience is here. Can you notice a particular thought in your mind? Perhaps there are thoughts about work, thoughts about a conversation that you had, or something that you have to do. And we label that. There's a thought about work. There's a thought about my conversation earlier. There's a thought about my to-do list. Okay, I see that. That is part of my experience. That is in my container, and that's okay. And we bring that curiosity to the experience of emotion. Is there an emotion that you can notice in your body right now? And then whatever you start to see, ask yourself, can I label this? Is this fear? Is this uncertainty? What is this emotion? And then once you get to label it, it gets to take up that space within your container. And you might say something to yourself like, okay, I see that fear, or I feel that experience of fear. That is part of my experience right now, and that is okay. It is allowed to be here. And of course, within this practice of holding space for whatever is in your experience, things might not necessarily always go completely smoothly. You might start to feel some friction coming up, and very often that can be the pattern of wanting to fix, wanting to change, or wanting to avoid and run away. So especially when we think about an uncomfortable emotion like fear, you might have a judging thought of, I shouldn't be afraid. Why am I so afraid? I should just be able to get over that. And then we label that thought. There is judgment. Of course, judgment is going to show up in our container. There it is. And that is allowed to be here too. I don't have to try to fix or change it. I can allow that thought to be here. I can also allow my emotional experience to be just as it is. And then we'll go through one more layer. We'll go into sensation or feeling. Sometimes this is related to the emotion. If you're feeling fear, there might be a sensation in your abdomen, or there might be muscle tension that you can notice related to that emotional experience of fear. But it might also just be a random sensation in your body. So within that open container, what your experience is right now, is there anything that you can feel in your body? And then when you notice something, a little tightness in my hip, a little discomfort in my back, I see that feeling in my body. So there's the labeling, that recognition that that is part of your experience. And I don't have to fix or change it. That is what I feel right now, and that is allowed to be here. And then it's like we take a step back, trying to get a little bit of perspective, giving some space and distance from what is in this container right now. Whatever the thoughts are, whatever the emotional tone is, whatever the body sensations are that you can notice, it's like you're holding that in your container. This is the experience of being me right now. Let me look at it clearly. This is my human experience. And it is okay for it to be exactly as it is. And then we take a couple breaths and just see what that feels like to allow your experience to be. There is no wrong way for you to experience this. And then we'll gradually start to pack up this new set of tools, this practice for holding space for yourself, for whatever it is that you might be going through. so that we can practice it. But also, as we close this practice, we'll close with a recognition that this is a very foundation practice for us to work with our own emotional experience, but it also extends out. So the people around us, we can practice holding space for them. They can have thoughts, they can have emotions, positive, negative, or neutral, and we can hold that open space for them to have their experience. We do not have to jump in and fix or change anything about that. We can recognize what they're going through and allow them to be in that place. And that is how we hold space for ourselves and how we hold space for the people around us. The more you practice this, the more it will create an expansive quality in your emotional experience. When we get better at allowing space for difficult or uncomfortable emotions, it expands our emotional range, so we also have more space for the joyful and expansive emotions. So quite an important practice to be able to process through the complexity of the human emotional spectrum.